The last time the head of the Republican Governors Association was drowning in scandal, it took just 2 days of media coverage of that scandal for him to resign the chairmanship of the Republican Governors Association. But Chris Christie is no Mark Sanford. 5 years ago, South Carolina Governor Mark Sanford was caught traveling secretly to rendezvous with a woman not his wife. 5 years later, that woman is now his fiancée, and the current chairman of the Republican Governors Association is traveling secretly to raise money for the Republican Governors Association. Chris Christie went to Texas today, where he was shunned by the Republican political establishment. Texas Governor Rick Perry, himself a former chairman of the Republican Governors Association, left it to his spokesperson to deal with the Christie invasion, saying simply, "Governors come to our state regularly for a variety of reasons, and we're pleased to have them here." Greg Abbott, the Texas Attorney General and the all but certain Republican nominee to succeed Governor Perry, stayed 200 miles away from Christie, who was in Dallas, while Abbott was in Houston. Normally, Republican gubernatorial candidates rush to the side of the chairman of the Republican Governors Association when the chairman comes to their state. If Greg Abbott becomes the Republican nominee for governor, consider this. He will be asking the Republican Governors Association for money. He will be asking Chris Christie for campaign money if and only if Chris Christie is still the chairman of the Republican Governors Association. And what we saw in Texas today indicates that Greg Abbott probably does not believe that Chris Christie will still be the chairman of the Republican Governors Association when Greg Abbott needs campaign money from that chairman. Everything Chris Christie did in Texas today was shrouded in secrecy, closed to the press, and apparently the same will be true next week when Christie plans a fundraising trip in Chicago. According to the New York Times, Illinois local Republicans said they remained in the dark about the event's location, while state Republican officials have been asked not to talk about Mr. Christie's trip. Now, what every big and successful political fundraising event needs is a political superstar, someone everyone is excited about seeing, someone who, when he or she walks into the room, everyone else there believes they are in the presence of a future president of the United States. That's what the Republican Governors Association was bargaining for when they elected Chris Christie chairman. They wanted someone who all of the Republican gubernatorial candidates in the country would want to have their pictures taken with. They wanted someone who would excite Republican campaign investors and convince those campaign investors to pour even more money into Republican gubernatorial campaigns. And what Chris Christie wanted was media coverage, and lots of it, of his political rock star fundraising tours of the United States, like the one in Texas today, the one in Illinois next week, in states that he would be campaigning in for president. And Chris Christie wanted even more contacts with even more Republican campaign investors who would then pour even more money into his presidential campaign than they pour into the Republican Governors Association. And tonight, Republicans are wondering, will Chris Christie ever be able to do a public event for the Republican Governors Association? Will any Republican gubernatorial candidate in the country be willing to be seen with or photographed with Chris Christie? Republicans have absolutely no doubt that Mark Sanford did the right thing for them by resigning the chairmanship of the Republican Governors Association when he ran into problems. And tonight, many Republicans are nervously wondering how long Chris Christie can or will hang on.